Hey everybody, this is Stacy. Welcome back to my channel. So I decided that I was going to try my hand at a little bit of mail art to go with my watercolor Christmas card. So I took some 90-pound Artist Loft watercolor paper and made an envelope out of it. And I'm going to tape that down to my table with some painter's tape. Painter's tape, this is frog tape, I think. It's a nice low tack tape that I don't have to worry about, hopefully not ripping the paper. Anyways, in order to make my wreath today, I took a cup and just traced around the cup so I could have a nice circle shape to start with. The circle was a little dark, so I took an eraser and lightened that up a bit just so I could barely see it. You may not be able to see the circle anymore in the video. So then I took my core watercolors and a small brush, and I just started going around that circle really loosely with some squiggles and some dots and some dashes. This is going to be very impressionistic. This is not meant to be very realistic looking. So you can see I'm holding the brush real loose towards the edge of the brush, and I'm just not even thinking too much about it. So I'll go all the way around that circle with that sap green. And I haven't sped this up because I've cut a lot of portions of this video out. Now I could have used a bigger brush here, but bigger brushes, they hold a ton more water. And it's always better, I think, in watercolors to err on the side of caution a bit. So now I'm just kind of going back in with some more of that green, a little bit darker in some areas, and adding some more color and making the wreath a little bit bigger. Now I am taking the what is that? That is the same green, the sap green mixed with some Payne's gray. And I'm just touching some areas here that are still wet. And what that's going to do is the paint is going to spread out, and it's going to darken those areas, and it's going to give it a real kind of natural, well, more of a natural look than purposeful. I'm just letting the water do the work for me. I'm not thinking about it. I'm just going in and I'm touching these wet areas, and that paint will spread out and it will look really, really nice. So now I'm going in with just the Payne's gray. And as I said in the last video, Payne's gray is a very blue-gray color. So when you mix it with the sap green, it just makes a deeper green. And so now going in with that Payne's gray full strength will make a nice forest, kind of a deep forest green color. And you can just see I'm just tapping it in. I'm letting the water do the work for me. So now there's my first layer that's dry. And I decided that I wanted my wreath to be a little bigger and kind of a little messier. And also wanted to put back in some of that lighter tone. I got a little bit carried away with the darker colors, but that's okay. That's why I started out with a small skinny wreath and a smaller brush, and I wanted to be able to make sure that, you know, if I made any mistakes, it would be easier to fix. It's easier to add with watercolor than it is to take away. So, yeah, that is what I did. So now I'm just going back in, I'm adding some little more pops of color, kind of trying to even this out, make it balanced for your eye. But this is a super easy technique, and you can see I've only used two colors so far. I've only used sap green and the Payne's gray. So I encourage you to try this. I learned this from Steve over at The Mind of Watercolor. And Steve is a wonderful watercolor artist. I am not. I am just learning. And this is a great way to do shrubs and trees and plants and all kinds of foliage. So now that everything is completely dry, I'm going in with some of this, I think that is permanent scarlet. I'm just making little berry clusters. And now, while they're still kind of wet, I'm going to take some of that Payne's gray and I'm going to go into that scarlet color, that red color, and I'm just going to dab a little bit of that in there. I'm going to make a few of these berries a little bit darker. So with the Payne's gray and the red, it makes kind of a deep plum color. And now that everything is completely dry, I'm going to remove the tape. And I will round those corners on my envelope now that I know that everything's good. So the next thing, I'll take some of Tim Holtz Glaze. It's called Micro Glaze. And it's kind of the consistency of, I don't know, it's not quite Vaseline, it's not quite chapstick, it's kind of somewhere in between. It's a little bit waxy. And I'm going to rub that on with my finger all the way around, and that will seal the watercolors. So if it goes through the mail and it gets wet, we don't have to worry about it being destroyed. So after you've rubbed that all on, you take a paper towel and you just kind of buff it. And you can kind of see that it's not as shiny anymore, and there'll be a little bit of a close-up here in a minute. But you can see that. So now it's sealed. And all I have to do is write my address, or the recipient's address, in the middle there, and my address on one of the flaps, and it will be ready to go. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.